Welcome, everyone, to another Sunday Satsang. It's good to be with you again. I just want to announce before we get into the talk that next Sunday, April 20th, there won't be a Sunday Satsang as I am traveling. And the Sunday after that, the April 27th, the Satsangs will resume. So it's just the next Sunday that we won't be able to see one another in this way. And then the Sunday after that, we'll be back right here in the satsang space again. One of the crucial pointers for me in my seeking journey was delivered to me by Roger. It was just this one statement that landed in a way that it was held on to like a mantra or like a like an arrow that was looking for its bullseye to land in its full potential. I remember that time I would sleep and wake up just thinking about that statement because the words made sense. And yet there was this intelligence in the system at that time where there was a knowing that it hasn't landed in its full capacity. And that was just the priority in that time, to fully understand what would it mean to embody what has been pointed. And that statement was and I'm paraphrasing, maybe these are not the exact same words, but how they are remembered now. There is suffering in life because life is taken personally, and because we think / believe that we need love. I'm going to say it again. There is suffering in life because life is taken personally, and because we think / believe, there is a belief, a deep-rooted belief that we need love. And when this was a full 2-hour, 3-hour talk, but just this one statement in that talk just stopped time for me, or even everything else in the seeking. Like it kind of just was like, what? How can it be put so on point? Like bingo, there it is. As the space of I am, this spaceless being reveals itself when the seeker momentarily falls away and within which the seeker plays reveals itself to itself. And there is a muscle that is building itself of choosing, in a way, of the choice being made, where the resting and the grounding in that being is chosen more and more. It almost may become a way where it feels like that resting in being is almost at will. That if I'm concentrating on a certain task, I might be out there as the person, and then as there is nothing working mind related going on, nothing that requires our particular focus or attention, even during a friendly conversation, they at will call, it almost feels like there can be a resting in being, and the content, including the me, the person, the personality, can be loosely allowed to flow. And yet, we also find in the seeking journey that something still triggers almost compulsively to forget that grounding, that foundation of who we are, and an identification with the story, as in a sense that we ourselves are the story, the game of shame and hatred and resentment and anxiety and expectation and attachment starts to play out. So much so that there might be a memory of that, oh shit, I thought I got it. And in this moment, it feels so painful, and the suffering is so much here that it feels like I would never, ever be able to relax in a way that I can ground back within the sense of beingness, with whatever that identification is showing up as. And if we really look into that, it is only the knots in the system that are still remaining, in the sense that some triggers or some relationships or some judgments that are yet to be looked at, that have the capacity to pull the grounding, the sense of being, into the almost compulsive identification into being the suffering, the psychological suffering self. And maybe in the moment when the suffering self is playing and acting out, it may not be possible, but as a reflection, as an afterthought, we may be able to catch that it is only the instances where life is still taken personally that I get caught up, that the suffering shows up, that it feels like that this circumstance really has the power to pull me out of who I really am. And if those patterns or triggers or storylines, if the light of awareness shines on them, maybe one by one, gradually, and if there can be a investigation that can go on, or a feeling into the whole narrative or the pattern of what triggers this, and then where does this come from? I'm going to take a side tangent to the topic. So what triggers this? So let's say it seems like that the other, let's say a friend with whom I have a up and down relationship, they trigger this many times. And I see this, that, okay, when they behave like this, or when they talk like this, or when they say something about me in this area, something feels at unrest, something is triggered. So it is not about thinking about the other. Why did they say this? They shouldn't have said that, or they should have said it like that. And it is sometimes not even about going out there and letting them know that, oh, you hurt me. The process may become such that if unrest is felt within, wherever it is triggered from, there might be an intelligence in the system now to realize that the unrest is here, is within me. It has nothing to do with who or what triggered it. So as soon as a trigger is experienced, and that trigger involves the blame for the other, that how dare you. So that trigger already is full of that energy that is moving outward towards the seeming other that triggered the unrest. However, now it is known that they are just the trigger of the unrest. They are not the cause of the unrest. And there is a big difference in our relating to the other and relating to the unrest within. When that is realized, when that really lands, what does it really mean that they are not the cause of that trigger? And it is really about this unrest settling itself that my peace of mind lies in. It's not, it doesn't lie in me going out and letting them know that they were in the wrong, or it doesn't lie in going out and telling them of apologize. It doesn't lie in taking revenge. I hope we all have realized that by now. And then attention can really turn inward to this unrest, to this, well, it may show as anger or blame energy. And then if that is really something that we can sit with, it may transform into something deeper. So why do I feel triggered on this particular theme of topic? Let's say it's one of my shortcomings or one of my appearance characteristic, or one of my failed relationship or failed job, that when someone touches on that, or when I perceive that someone is trying to touch on that, something in me really is not okay. And it feels like that you shouldn't talk like that to me. So then coming back on the original tangent that we are treading on. So the triggers that are remaining in the system, if we are really willing, more accurately speaking, if there is willingness in the system to stop, let the trigger arise. And if there is enough clarity in the system that the energy, rather than flowing outward towards the seeming other, towards whom the blame may arise or judgment may arise, if that energy is settled enough that even that is allowed to arise, but then something within is able to just be aware of all of that. That, oh, look, there is blame. Look, there is this urge to bring them to their place, or say, triggering things to them, back to them. And then if this whole dance of hurt and pain is somehow let be, it may morph into something deeper, from which the seeming blame, resentment, revenge feeling would be arising from. And as it opens up more and more and more for ourselves, at the very root of any unrest or trigger, there is this deep-rooted belief that I am not complete unless I'm loved, I'm accepted, I'm approved of, I'm validated. So because there is this sense of lack, the sense of separation, the sense of being separate from all there is. And that's why I need to protect myself from all there is, because all there is and me are two. So I'm responsible for my protection. So I need to manipulate myself and I need to manipulate the other in order to protect myself. And this is covered up with a story, with a belief of that I need love. And that love could mean approval, validation, attention, whatever form, based on the genes and up-to-date conditioning, whatever form brings us back into the non-fighting mode of ourselves is labeled as love. And what the master is saying here, that there is suffering in life because life is taken personally and because there's a belief that we need love. So the very deep-rooted sense of needing something to be complete, which can be labeled as love, or a sense of belonging, or a sense of purpose, is the very reason there is suffering in life. It itself is the suffering mechanism. And this is such a good news. That this very feeling, this very experience of something being missing, and whatever is missing has to be fulfilled or has to be filled from something that this missing feeling is projected upon in the seeming future. This feeling and experience in itself is the suffering. So there is nothing needed. There is nothing that can fill this, because this lack in itself is not real. The sense of lack in itself is something built upon this being that we truly are. So now the circumstance or the trigger is not relevant anymore. The arising of the sense of being attacked or even the sense of being approved, they both somehow are looked at now as misunderstanding, because there is nothing in life that can add anything on to what I am. And there is nothing in life that can take anything away from what I am. As this really, truly lands within our system, which is, by the way, not our doing, but that may happen. And if and as that were to happen, there is no way that life is now taken personally. Because life is taken personally only when there is a belief that there is something in life that can give me what I need because I'm lacking that. And that in itself is the misunderstanding. And it is the falling away of that misunderstanding that the grounding in the beingness that we are reveals itself. And then by and by, in daily living, little patterns and little triggers, they all somehow come to light day by day, week by week, month by month, throughout the lifetime, maybe however it is destined to show up. And it is curiously looked at that, wow, look at that. The system's still identifying personally over there. And oh, look at that. I used to react like so personally about this on this topic until last month or last year, and now it doesn't affect me. And this whole journey, this is what we can call the inward journey. Then it's not about what's happening in life, whether I'm gaining friends or losing friends, or whether somebody likes me or approves of me. Then it is just about whether there's suffering or whether there's an awareness of suffering, or whether there's an absence of suffering. And as that becomes the focus of perception, the circumstance, relationships, life out there somehow automatically falls into place in a way that, not in a way that it all becomes pleasurable, because the flow of life is a combination of pleasure and pain. So there will be our share of pain and there will be our share of pleasures as destined. And yet there is an inner harmony with the pleasure and pain, because I don't need to cling to the pleasure, because I don't feel attacked by the pain of life. So pleasure is welcome, and it's also welcome to leave as destined. And pain is allowed, if not welcome, and it is allowed to leave as it leaves and as it goes. Somehow I find myself really entertaining the what if thought experiments when it comes to working in our system, in my system. And I would love to announce that thought experiment to you guys also, and see if it feels interesting enough to take in, and maybe throw in the question within our systems. So what if really, truly, we didn't need love? What if truly there was nothing to lose? And to bring home this concept, can we really imagine ourselves in a place where the whole world, our whole family, all our friends, all our followers on social media, everything is somehow against us? And something in us can still be like, actually, you know what? It's okay. I'm okay. It's not enjoyable for sure, but it's okay. It is really the place of being crucified by the whole world and still being able to stay grounded within ourselves, not being able to take it as an attack on ourselves. And what would that look like practically? That the need to defend ourselves just falls away in an argument, in a, in just daily living. Something just calms down. There's no need to prove anything to anyone anymore, or there's no need to prove anything to even myself anymore, because I already am. Loved or not loved. Because loved or not loved would be what is destined for me as this human being, which is not my doing, not anybody's doing, and is the flow of life, is the pain in the moment that is to be experienced, not an attack on who I am. It is from this recognition and this way of relating to ourselves, relating to life, that we can say that a total surrender to God's will has happened. That non-duality is taking place in daily living. Because I'm not living in the duality of what's for me and what's against me anymore. It's not about that anymore. It's just what is. can we be really honest with ourselves where we are still holding on to aspects of life, where we are rooting, playing from a place, believing that I need to get this, or I need to change this, or I need to fix this. And is it really possible to look at them, look at those aspects, and find for ourselves that where is it that the belief in personal doership and attachment to outcome is still playing there? Where is it that I'm still hanging on to the belief that I need to be complete, and it's in this fixing or changing or getting, gaining or losing that I believe that I will be complete. Because that right there in itself is the attachment to outcome, the suffering mechanism that in itself, what can fall away, or what we are really looking for to be stabilized, to be revealed, as within which even that suffering, even that attachment to outcome has been arising. As it lands more and more within that nothing is missing, nothing is needed, there is no quest, there is no need for seeking or the seeking identity. Silence can prevail. And that silence in itself is the freedom from suffering. And in that silence, the very objective which was being sought after in the belief that we need love is experienced, is attained not that it was missing ever. It was just the identification with this belief of something being missing in this moment that will be or has to be found or fulfilled in the seeming future moment. That movement in itself somehow veils the recognition that it is always here. It is timeless. It will be inaccurate to say that it was or it will be. It always is. The very idea of past and future is arising within this, which is the flow of daily life from this recognition, and the grounding in this recognition can really be addressed from a place of being present for here and now, for whatever is front of me in this moment. Because I'm not trying to manipulate myself or the other or life for a seeming lack that needs to be fulfilled. And there is a belief that in this situation, if I were to get whatever my interpretation of a good outcome is in that situation, so if I were to manipulate, believing that I'm the doer and I can do this and change and affect the flow of life or affect the outcome of a circumstance, so that whole manipulation energy can relax now. And because that energy is absent, is not taking form in the way that it used to try and make everything work for me and not against me. So now for every situation and circumstance, I can be fully present without an attachment to what the outcome should be for me to be okay, or for it to be pleasure for me all the time. That very way of life is what is known as peace of mind in daily living. So it is the very byproduct of awakening to the impersonal I amness, integrating throughout the person that I am. And the person being this structure of genes and up-to-date conditioning, where the suffering mechanism, the separate psychological suffering self, is reprogrammed in a way that it can fall away now. The conditioning is updated in such a way that the conditioning that created suffering is washed off. I can be free of that need to be liked by someone or everyone. I'm free of this fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. Or at least there would be an awareness, a surrender to this fear or need that arises in the system. Now it can be looked at as an arising, a suffering mechanism that is arising within the system, and not as an attack from out there that is taking place on me. And I don't need to bring my shield up and go to war. There is suffering in life because life is taken personally and we believe that we need love. And suffering in life can fall away when there is no need to take life personally anymore. And the belief that we need love falls away and is absent. It's as simple as that. And yet, suffering might still be here. Seeking might still be here. Is it possible in this moment, or in the moment when seeking and suffering is arising, is it possible to not take that personally? Not make it about me or how I am still lacking in this quest of enlightenment or quest of peace or end of suffering? Is it possible to recognize in that moment that this very suffering is an impersonal arising? Even if there is an identification with that arising, something can be felt as a background or the base within which the frustration towards that suffering can be seen, can be felt as an arising and not who I am. Let's open up the space for any questions, comments, or conversation. You can raise your electronic hand on Zoom and I will unmute you.
Hello, Gulleen. You can hear me?
Yes. Hi, Shiv. How are
Hi.
you?
Good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you.
Somehow you talk about things that are very alive in me sometimes in satsang. Uh, like this whole thing that you are talking about, I've been exploring that with ChatGPT's help. Somehow it ended up guiding me along the process you're talking about, and how it seems like there are these one-dimensional human beings within me. On one end of the axis is something they desire to complete itself, and on the other end of the axis is some fear about what will happen if it doesn't get it. And it feels like, as I sit and do the practice, it feels like there are these so many of them within me, all trying to saying random things. And once you treat them like a very scared, frightened animal, you give it your attention, you give it your presence, you just sit with it without manipulating it. And you ask it questions, it gradually opens up about what it desires, what it's afraid of. And just in that, it's satisfied with just that, just your presence and being with it. And you also talked about your teacher, and um, so just today I found out that my teacher, he just announced that he won't be offering satsangs anymore. For 2 months there was no satsang, and he announced today that they won't be there anymore. And there was something about it, all those memories and something about it. I don't know what, how it might be grief, but it's not so what can you say, full of it doesn't show very outwardly, but there's a very silent something to it. And I was talking about this with ChatGPT also, and then it said there's something within you. He has planted something within you, and that that is alive and that needs to be nurtured. I don't know. It didn't say nurture exactly, but I said that. But and I've noticed that in a way, like something in me recognizes an authentic teacher, and something in me delighted whenever he'd speak. It didn't happen at first. So, what I want to ask is whether this something within me is also one of those beings, and is that the one that I should hold on to, come into servitude to serve, so that, like, what the conversation with ChatGPT was. I'll just explain a bit more. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place a bit. So,
We'll go for
what?
it.
Uh, So my feeling here is not about trying to get something, but about finding something and wanting to hold on to it. Like I was telling ChatGPT that time heals all wounds, and that's something I'm scared of. That somewhere if this lacuna, this void that my teacher isn't there, if I fill with all the junk of the world, and it's forgotten all the everything that was shared, not just in words but just being in his presence, and something beautiful, something holy, something sublime, something something that's so, like it's undeniably divine. That hints at some that there is something divine, and I want to hold on to it, and I'm afraid that I'd lose it once I don't have regular satsangs with him. And and I recognize, just as those one-dimensional beings, they are alive. They're not just insentient things like thoughts and all that. These things have some life to them. And I'm wondering whether when ChatGPT was guiding, it seemed like there is something living within me, a sapling that he has planted. And it was saying that you don't need to hold on to the pain of him not being around, a wound, but you can be with him, a living something about him that I can live with. And in what way is it different from all these millions of voices within, which are one dimensional? And is this something special that I should protect? and nurture, or but you seem to be saying it's not really. I don't know. I'm just like all over the place. I just wanted to bring this up. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your authenticity and your honesty and the way with which you are able to express so courageously. Um, the, so thank you for sharing what you share. And another thing that I want to point out, though, I feel for you. I completely relate to the sadness that can be felt when there is this knowing that you won't be able to stay in touch or in physical contact with your master the way it has been given to you till now or in the past. So I completely relate with that sadness. It's like a baby being delivered, and now they have to be taken in the nursery away from the mother. So it's that sense of distance. And there is this fear or, this vulnerability that feels like, oh, what would I do without them now? It feels that way. And it's natural and it's very pure. So there is nothing wrong with feeling the sadness of not being able to have access to our teacher, our master, in a way where we can ask questions to them and have their viewpoint on things that we feel like we need guidance on. So that is definitely very valuable. But I'm sure your teacher would say the same thing, maybe in different words, that the human being, the person in themselves, is not the teacher. So it is actually impossible to not be in touch with the teacher. What you're calling that aliveness within, that is bonded with the teacher and their guidance, that aliveness, that love, that unconditional surrender towards, that is projected upon that human form of guru or teacher, is the very guru. So it's not that you should protect that, because then basically I would take on the identity of the protector. And then that is exactly the opposite of what the teacher is pointing to. So it's just time to rejoice while holding the space for the sadness that is still there, to not be able to access the physical presence in the way that we were able to for some time. And sometimes it's for the whole lifetime. And yet the teacher is always alive within. So whatever you said was ignited by his presence, that is the teacher, the true Sadguru that we can say. So is it possible to bow down to that ignition and to hang out with that as a reverence to the physical form of the teacher that we love so much?
I would love to, and I just want to know how it's different from these little people within, these one-dimensional ones. I want to hold on to this one, and I don't know if he's there, but somewhere I think I do. So
It is God's and Guru's grace that there is a desire to hold on to the aliveness that is in touch with the Guru over what you're calling one-dimensional. But actually, all of them are arisings. And it is only God's grace, our good fortune, that this connection with the resonance with the teaching and the teacher, that feels more desirable. So that's why the attention and the focus is somehow pulled towards that. And as that pull stabilizes enough that there needs to be no pull, but that becomes the very ground of experience, which can be called as the state of param bhakti in a way. And so all these arisings of the fear and the abandonment and the suffering mechanism, the suffering little stories or even the strongest root of the very suffering self can then be held within this ground, like our guru would hold our flaws and our limitations. So it is really an opportunity to nurture this relationship with the Sadguru that is always here, is not different from who we really are. And within that bounty, almighty presence, the arisings that you were saying are there and arise can be allowed to open up or just allowed to be.
So in a way, you're giving me the same pointing you did last week also. Where is it all arising and disappearing into? That's what I should. That's the Sadguru, is it? All these.
In a way, yes, but not conceptually. Not conceptually at all. These words mean nonsense, actually.
But if I were to look at what it's pointing to, I'll find it. If I take them as directions. No?
Are you sure it's not that one-dimensional being asking that question right now who needs to find the grounding of it? To feel like, oh, it has landed somewhere and now it doesn't need to suffer anymore? Because the grounding wouldn't need to find anything.
I'm just blank. I don't know. Oh,
Yeah, that's amazing.
it's worth exploring. Can you help more? Kind of, I don't know. I'm just blank. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
There is no answer. That's why it's amazing. The question landed truly for you, because if it were taken on by that one who wanted to find the grounding, it would have had an answer ready in words. So the question would have been counterproductive. So it's actually good that there is blankness.
But the grounding?
The grounding always is. The guru always is. With or without blankness, with or without question, with or without having an answer to the question. There are no answers, by the way. The questions fall away. And then we can create this another quest of finding a place or finding an experience where the questions are not there. That's also a quest to finding an answer. So the quest in itself is what is keeping us away from the guru. And that doesn't mean that now I get on to a quest to end the quest, because that is another quest on top of the existing quest. Is it possible to just surrender to the very, very quest that is going on within me, which feels true, which feels real, and which has to be taken on as the will of God or will of the teacher, and just surrender to curiously find out what comes of it? Whether something is found or whether it becomes boring and I give it up, or whether everything falls away and it's like, oh, the guru has taken over.
One more question is coming up. It's still seeking, I guess, if I had to ask a question, but it's there.
Go for it.
Like I've been contemplating this I am what you talk about. So when will you say that you found the I am? When you perceive something new, or what else do you perceive something, the I am, do you perceive it and then you say, I found the I am, or is it, I don't know what it is. What does it mean to find it and not having found it before?
The one who needs to say, I found the I am, can never find the I am. So, but I understand your question where it is actually valid to wonder, what would it mean to have for this impersonal sense of I am to have revealed. And I will take us back to our last conversation last Sunday that we had. And you said that when you close your eyes, there is this grayness or blackness. I'm not sure how you labeled it, but this just this one gray thing, thingless thing, because it's not a thing, but everything is somehow in it. The sensation of the body, but I cannot call it that because the body is absent. If I remember correctly, that's what you
Yeah,
were reporting.
at that point, I was saying what I was calling blackness was when I close my eyes, it's dark. And you
Yes,
were pointing me to what it is in which these internal things they appear and disappear. And I
yes,
was saying I can't find that, but it seems to
yeah.
I see the blackness of lack of light. And maybe I'm falsely considering all this to appear and disappear within that. The space in which all these objects are, take the visuals away and just keep a dark space,
Mhm.
and it's still in the same space according to me. At least that's how I see it. But you seem to be pointing at something else. It's something else, and I'm wondering what it would be like to if I were to really see it, or whether it's something I see. And
It's not something
maybe
that you see. No, it
Mhm.
is not even an experience. It's not something that I can say, oh, there it is. Oh, here it is. It is the base of the one who's looking. It is the root of the one who's really looking for it. So that's why when I introduced that question last Sunday, that who knows that there is blackness? Like who's looking at the blackness? And then you said I. And then that's why the question comes, what is this I? Can you see this I? Can you find what is this I like?
I'm
And
sorry, this brought up one more thing. Yeah, sorry, go on.
whatever comes as an answer to that can come as an answer because it is seen. So again, the question comes back, what sees that or what perceives that? And it is only in the end where nothing can be perceived that the revelation has happened. And there's no one left there to even claim or know that I have found the I am. It already is the I am. The finding and the losing and the seeking are just not there. And that's how you know that it has revealed itself. There is no confusion after that. Confusion is there as an arising. And yes, confusion has to be there for us to be interested enough in finding clarity. It's a good sign that we are frustrated of the confusion and we are looking for clarity. That's actually a lot better than not being interested in looking. And yet, yes, it is the absence of all of that, that there is a recognition of ourselves as that impersonal sense of I am, and there's no Shiv there. So Shiv cannot come out and say, oh, I found it, because it and Shiv are not two. Shiv arises within it. So Shiv cannot find it. Shiv can only surrender to it. And that too would be the will of life, will of the story of or the arising, if Shiv were to surrender to it.
You did say it's good to seek, and it's
It's
better than it's
inevitable.
better. It's
It's
better than
inevitable.
just yes. So I'll ask one more thing, okay? Like when
Yes.
you said be with it, no, and you had asked me last week also, the one who is perceiving it, the space, the dark space I was talking about, the one perceiving the dark space, is it within the space or not? And when you say be with anything that arises, the arisings that you talk about, be with it. I think something, for me to be with it, would I not have to be in the same space? It's just something I'm just poking into. I don't know what to ask, or I just wanted to see where we can go with that.
Yeah. Were you able to see if the perceiving or the looking is happening outside from the space or within the space or by the space? Did anything of that sort become clear at all in your experience?
Like, it became more natural to say, I am seeing this, but where from, that wasn't so clear. But these things, they just reveal themselves, I feel, if we just keep the question and
Yeah.
just
Where from and what as?
what as.
They are not separate questions. It's the same thing. They lead to the same revelation.
As
So,
what am I seeing this?
yeah. And is that the space itself, or is that within the space? Because if that's the case, then what is seeing will be seen.
Mm.
That is why I'll be able to say that, oh, what is seeing is within the space. That means there's something beyond
Mm.
the seer, the very seer that is reporting there's blackness or there's space.
Mm.
So then what is that reports the seer? Because then that is the seer or the seeing. So is that seeing within the space or the space itself or beyond the space itself? And we can read scriptures and find answers to these questions. And yet, if it is becoming real in our experience where these questions mean something now, like these words somehow are landing in a place where I know, oh, that's where I need to look at within the experience, then no scripture, no teaching is needed. Just going back within ourselves, all the knowledge is right there. Well, knowledge, not the small K knowledge, like information, but the really knowing of being is already unraveling, if these pointers are making sense.
Thank you for these satsangs. Very great.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. And I also wanted to point out, Shiv, it's only the next Sunday that there won't be a satsang. The Sunday after that, we resume again. So
Yeah.
I hope it's not a long duration for us to be apart.
It's not. Thank you. Have a
Yeah.
nice time when you're Sunday, wherever you're going.
Thank you, Shiv. Ranjan,
Hi, Gule. How are you?
I am very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, as you mentioned in the beginning of satsang that this truth, like realizing this truth, or this, it takes time, or it takes years or lifetimes, whatever that is. Yeah, when it comes to that, because sometimes it frightens me that okay, yeah, currently I experience a lot of sensations going on in the body. It is as ego, it is not from a particular point. It has like it is ingrained whole body. Actually, I feel it is like whole body is programmed in some way. That so it is keeps on triggering these things. But when we enter to the sleep state, these sensations won't be there, or we are not aware actually when we enter and sleep. Only we are aware is the dream thing. What happens actually that to the body? Uh, because yeah, it's maybe I don't know. It's out of fear. It is coming that to find a solution that okay to cleanse the body or to feel harmonious. So because when I listen earlier, I have read some books, and in that says okay, Kundalini yoga. They say 12 years is the time where the whole body can be reprogrammed or whatever. So being aware of these many years, it will take time. So that is one thing. And also when I was listening to case teaching, Judy Krishnamurti, he was always pointing out on the insight. So where that insight, that flash, that cleanses or makes the brain cells itself or cells in the body itself. So it, instead of going in this direction, it just have a shift in that perspective. And so it will rejuvenate itself or it becomes cleansed itself. So all these patterns from these patterns and all. Yeah. And also another question is on this guru-disciple relationship. So we are blessed that we are part of this satsang. And I never thought in my life that I'll be talking to a realized being. So how that communication works between with realized being and with ourselves, and how this process makes, because I feel this process is little bit adventurous. It is not that like, okay, yes, awareness, I'm aware, I feel immense space around me. And also when I look at people, I'm not just looking at their form, I'm looking at as a whole being, the space and the gestures. So everything is noticeable, how they speak, the sound, everything. But this process, it's very, sometimes it's very tension kind of thing. Means I'm not resisting it, but it is coming like, I feel more on the stomach area. I don't feel on the chest area. The stomach is little bit. And also the brain, there is connection between the brain and all these, the bodily feelings somewhere, because there is heavily programming is in the brain. That is where it's, because they say, I was listening to case teaching, it was more on, he was always saying word is not a thing, means the sensations appear, that is, we label it as a fear or anger or tension or sense of lack, whatever it is. But somewhere that words are programmed in the brain. I don't know whether it's the right side of the brain or left side of the brain, but I see more earlier, the whole brain was not active. Now I see the brain is active. Like I can see the right side of the brain is also functional in this sense. But it is not, so it's maybe a lot of things are comes up, like how these gods are related, like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. So normally I visit Tirunamalai frequently, maybe 3 months once or something. So more devoted to Shiva, which is being nothing. They say Shiva is nothing, which is all pervading. And also I feel when I see Ramana Maharshi, he has disciples like Papaji. He realized, and Papaji helped or made Muji Baba. He also realized from the Papaji. The same way, how is our relationship between us, like from yourself and us, like how these teachings can transform, how this can be established, that Guru. Of course, everyone says the Sadguru is within us, but so we know only awareness and we know only the sensations. So we don't know nothing else. So how that can be established or how that can help us.
The shift of the system from suffering to suffering falling away is not only psychological or mental or emotional. It penetrates down to the physical manifestation of this body also. And that is where the understanding that they say the different bodies, the subtle body, the emotional body, the physical body, so all those forms of manifestations that are labeled as bodies that embody this human being, or the human being or the personal manifestation is the outermost manifestation of this whole being in a way. So when the conditioning, the genes and up-to-date conditioning are updated in a way that the understanding has landed, maybe mentally, maybe intellectually, in a conceptual way. And if we are destined, if it's our good fortune, that understanding can start penetrating, not just in investigations and contemplations, but then there's a time when the understanding is shifting, the conditioning is shifting, the old programs, even in the body, have to rearrange themselves so they are in alignment with the new conditioning or the new understanding, or the false understanding falling away little by little. Thankfully, it is little by little, so our system can process it in a way that we can still function and eat and sleep and keep on going in daily life. So the sensations in the body might be a sign that the stored, we can call in the psychological or emotional sense, we can say trauma, but really the misunderstanding, the blocked energies that still are that deep-rooted belief in that sense of lack or sense of abandonment or separation, that are now shifting by themselves without us having to consciously think about them. So the tremors or the shaking or the heat or the chill, whatever, however that sensation is felt in the body, can be a rearranging of the system in a way where there is less misunderstanding than before. So I remember talking about body work. So when this is going on and the sensations and the body and the pains and aches, stiffness in the muscles or movement in the muscles are alive, body work, somatic work, things like physical, like yoga or dynamic meditation or dance, things like those, acupuncture, massages, things like those can really help us ground within the body. Because sometimes it is also the wound of dissociation from being in the body has been so normal and natural as a way of relating to ourselves in life, that now when grounding is taking place, that dissociated self is somehow landing back in the body, and the body is readjusting with that presence coming back and coming down in the body. And it can even be painful depending on how the system is and what the process is. And taking help and assistance from whatever resonates in that moment, whatever kind of physical or body work, and not just witnessing whatever is going on, which feels the natural movement and which is very, very useful. And yet there might be a time for us to do grounding techniques, being in nature, saltwater baths. So just those, and all the other things that I mentioned before. And there are many, many other providing techniques that are designed in life depending on what might be needed by the system. And we'll find this automatic resonance with a certain thing in life that, oh, I think I should try that. And there might be a certain availability in life where we're able to try it out through an online session or a yoga class in a yoga studio and whatnot. So that's definitely valuable when it comes to energies shifting within the body. And it can be exhausting. There's no denying that. I'm glad you mentioned that there's tension, or even without resistance, it feels too much sometimes. And that's true. It can, and it is designed to feel that way because the energy that is shifting or being released from the system is that hurt or heaviness that is leaving the system. So it is bound to feel heavy because it is heaviness itself that is moving within the body or within the system. So I feel like how you're reporting it, you're already very gracefully are able to just move
Because
with it.
in this way it is happening, like when you go to nature, it is, yes, I feel very relaxing. The nature is really, yeah, you feel very relaxed and in that. But when you sit alone or when you are in walking, so all these things will be coming out, like all the sensations and all. But at the same time, you feel the space around. So that is the peace, immense peace you feel that. But somewhere in the brain or something, you feel the body thing. I don't know, like is there some center where you feel that as a awareness, yes, the body can exhaust all these things. But as a something, maybe there is something person left in the brain is concerned about this process. So is there any point that the observer, as you mentioned, who is the observer or who is the seer? You asked me to find out from some discussion back. So when it comes to that, I really can't find anything on that. Yeah, it's like a so even Krishnamurti was all his life, his teaching was only one point, that so can observer be observed? That is the end of this process. That is what I feel, that this, so that releases everything. So kind of a full release of energy. Maybe that is the thing which is holding everything together. Because it releases the energy in the brain, so brain feels. But this, I don't know how this. Yeah, obviously it is not how, it is perception. It's a quick perception that says, yeah. But this is where I feel I stuck in this thing. So this perception, which is holding everything.
The point that seems to be holding it all together doesn't need to dissolve.
Okay.
And as I say that, I also want to put out the disclaimer, whatever I'm saying is a concept, not the truth. So just take it lightly, if possible.
Yeah.
So whatever is somehow the point that is out of which, in a way, the whole thing, the whole dance is playing out, is the very arising of the me. It is but what is going on, how you are describing it, is that it seems like that center or that so-called me is interested in keeping track of the performance of the process, as if it knows where it needs to lead and it needs to know when it has made it to the end or to the top of the mountain.
Actually, it doesn't know, but it's worried or something like that. This process can remain like you
Yeah.
don't know like when this process ends, or
Yeah.
you remain in this like uncomfortable feelings and sensation to continue like this. Yeah, I'm aware of all these things. Like there are some little motives, like, okay, so once these things are all ended, then I can be very happy and enjoy the life, or it's like freedom. Freedom means not that what I do want to do. It's like freedom is like, yeah, so that love, so which is obscured now. I can honestly say that it is, yeah, in this process, I feel I'm aware, but there is kind of that, I don't know, the love and awareness how it is related. So because awareness is something which is beyond everything, where it doesn't have any attribute, but love is something kind of a different energy or different vibration frequency or something, which is to deal with form, right? That is what I understand. It is the relationships. So that is, love is to do with a relationship, where awareness is nothing to do with names and forms. It is untouched by all this mechanism. But only thing is now, as yeah, so it feels like I am completely different from awareness. Okay, I'm say that I'm aware of everything, but at the same time, there is no, yeah, it is happening with a grace, everything. But since that love is something where the love is the end of all this suffering or misunderstandings. But yeah, that is where, maybe that is where I have this motive that I want that love, something. Yes. As you mentioned, the lack, from the lack it arises that I want that love. But that lack is a sensation, but the sensation is, sometimes that sensation comes, lack sensation, but there are other n number of sensations, different sensations are arising it. So.
Yes, you put it spot on. That the very topic of our satsang was that there's suffering in life because there's a belief deep-rooted, even unconscious, it's not even conscious maybe, belief that I need love.
Yeah, this belief is kind of an energy pattern which is ingrained in our system, or what is that belief? Because there is a thought, if you apply that thought number of times, that becomes belief. That is what my understanding is. But I don't know that how that belief is so much strongly ingrained in our body, and if it is the source of everything, so for all the problems or all the sufferings we have. So that belief, yeah, revealing that belief, that we don't know that how that happens.
That belief may be revealed or not, and you already are somehow aware that it is probably that belief that is still interested in where this process is going and when will this ever end. So that in itself is a spot-on description of what attachment to outcome looks like. And then within that belief, within that narrative, that identification with the process in itself, that attachment in itself comes a sense of doership, where subtly, very subtly, maybe not as the seeker, but some manipulation is going on to quicken the process, or to, pray that the process ends, but it's coming from a doership. So it is the very sense of doership and attachment that is the suffering. And can there be awareness of that? Not by a doer, because the one who will put in the effort to be aware of that is again the doer.
But actually, doer is also awareness, right?
Everything is awareness.
Yeah.
Everything is awareness. Everything, suffering arises within awareness
But why
and
we
is made
call
of.
it as an illusion? That doer is illusion, because even it is made up of awareness, and we call it as evil or do illusion. There are many things, thought, they say
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Well, it is called evil for the temperaments that have to reject something to lose identification with something. So those kind of concepts are designed to be that dramatic. They have to be, the ego has to be labeled as culprit or the evil or the Satan, whatever word we give to it, for the temperaments that need those concepts to resonate, so they resonate, their system resonates with it, and the identification can fade away. However, again, all those pointers and teachings are concepts. It is really within the actual experience that something can be confirmed. And even then, we may come to a point where it is clear that even the experience is arising and falling away, as you called illusion. So even that is not the proof of anything. And that's why we say that the knowing is being. It's not separate from being. So there is nothing that can be known or is to be known. There is just this being that is in each moment, unfading, ever fresh, and still the same.
These questions are coming from being, or it's some separate entity or ego or whatever it is.
Even the separate entity is within the being.
Yeah, that's true. It is part of, see, everything.
So everything ultimately is coming from that which is. And yet, in this moment, there might be an identification that might be identified with the separate person or the separate seeker that is on the quest of finding that. And that's just how it is. There's nothing wrong with it. That doesn't need to change or doesn't need to end. But in this identification, it comes with the feeling of, but how can this be it? When will this ever end? Or what if my whole life, there was this time when I remember that, what if peace of mind or end of suffering was not available to Gurleen in this lifetime? And there was this time where I had to really sit with that. It was like, I may die without ever experiencing continuous unbroken peace of mind in daily living. And can I be at peace with that? So in this moment, that very interest in how the process is going, is it possible to, I'm going to use your word, the way you use the word love, is it possible to love the very obscuration of love?
Yes, actually, it is not, I don't have any fight with him with that. I'm not against to anything which is happening or anything. Yeah, only it is somewhere maybe. So when I listened some time back with the Papaji was saying senses, there is a mind and there is intellect and then the ego. So during sleep, all these things will go back to the source. Only sometimes during dreams means it is awake. It is not entered into the sleep. Okay. So this seems like something in the spine. We have something is awake or some that realization is the key that like, okay, which is find the source. That is the only way. But when maybe it is, yeah, that is how, maybe that is, it's my foolishness or something that is, because I wholeheartedly, I'm very thankful and grateful for these masters forever and ever. Yeah, somewhere it is, I was always praying for that, maybe we miss these masters in the beginning stage. These masters came in some years and they went away, like Krishnamurti or Papaji, Ramana Maharshi. That is the period, Nisargadatta Maharaj. That is the period where, so initially I had very regret that, okay, I was not in their presence, or I was not this. So it was going on like some kind of a regret or pain on that. But then suddenly when I come to teachings of Amodama or Rupert Spera or some Muji Baba, then I felt, okay, I'm very thankful for that, okay, that it has come much more clear that, okay, they were saying the awareness, that is being aware. It was not too complicated thing. It was simple teaching. We have to be aware. But yeah, of course, there is a much more in that, like when we are processing this information, processing these emotions, feelings, all those things. It is not that, of course, it's a direct path, which we call, but yeah, somewhere it is, this realization is, maybe it is holding. I tried many times to be aware before going to sleep, but maybe I've already fallen asleep. I am not at all aware. Only I am aware during dreams. So I can clearly, because daytime, when we have some kind of imagination, I don't see that imagination as a light. But during dreams, I clearly see that the dream is like a white light screen on that characters appear. But I am also part of that character, but my form will not be there. So that's how a dream happens. Only that moment I wake up suddenly. So, but yeah, somewhere this is where, yeah, I know that conceptually, or that is samadhi, we call it, that entering into sleep without having any dreams. So that is, but in the morning, everything will flush out that. So we come to normal again, like maybe yesterday my feelings may be different, sensations. But today again, you will have this similar kind of things. But yeah, every thoughts or every sensations are totally different thing. But how this comes up, whole thing that, so maybe this source is the way that, maybe not seeking the source, or I really don't know that how this really is needed grace, that maybe this happens only with the grace. Maybe I can be aware my whole lifetime. I can be watching all these things. I can be processing all information. But this happens really with, that is where the guru-disciple relationships happens. Yeah, listening is all these things done. Okay, listening, clearly listening, seeing, clearly seeing, that not having any judgments, not having any labels or anything. But there is a dependency on the guru. Maybe that guru may be inside, or that guru through a form. So there is really that, it is not that just it goes.
The key for this that you talk about is not to find the source.
Okay.
The key to this is to surrender the quest to find the source. The key is surrender. It's not the actual finding of the source, because the very need to find the source is an oxymoron. It's a catch-22. Who would find that which is all there is?
Yeah. But in that case,
And
rebellion, like means why this uh, constriction, like, so
Why
maybe
not?
that.
Why not, Ranjan? Who is so attached to this limitation not to be there? Who is it that really feels and believes that this obstruction has to go away for it to be okay, for me to be complete, for me to be enlightened? Who is it?
It is not the enlightenment, it is also because maybe it is my understanding that freedom or love is this freeing the mind, but I really don't know what is mind actually.
Discard it. I'm sorry, but discard it. It's just a belief that you have no proof of. So why hold on to something that I cannot confirm yet?
Yes.
What if freedom already is here? And this is what freedom looks like, including the very obscuration to the so-called love that I think needs to be there and is not here right now. What if it is here? And just because I believe that it needs to look like that, what is here is totally ignored.
Because what I feel, the space, the freedom, which is here and now, the same space will be there within the brain. That is my uh, search or hang on thing that, okay, so when that space, then there is kind of of course, there is a freedom, love, all the time it is present. I don't have any denying of that or anything. But only thing is, yeah, it's the brain is, they always say the brain and heart. So the ear, I always feel that space and freedom all the time. I have no issues at all. But when I come to waking state, always my brain is the function organ. So there I felt that limitation of the brain. So not that, I thought that limitation of the brain which becomes free. So then there is harmony, that so there is only love, uh, the love of freedom. That so only the brain consent to that. That was maybe, that is maybe I'm simply trying all these experiments to see that.
That is a very clear description of how it really appears to be. And there may come a time, by grace, as you correctly identified, by Guru's grace, that it may become clear that this whole narrative in itself is exactly the attachment to outcome being the freedom and love. So the freedom and love has been put on pedestal as an outcome that needs to happen for me to be okay, for me to stop searching or seeking, for me to feel like, okay, it has happened, whatever that it is. And that narrative in itself is the suffering, not the obscuration, but the belief, the concept that this obscuration needs to go, that something needs to change for life to be okay, for me to feel like that this process has completed. That in itself is the suffering. And it's an oxymoron, because this feeling, this belief, this experience in itself comes with that flavor of that, yeah, it needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is where the guru-disciple relationship comes in, as you correctly identified, which is not a separate human being pointing to it, although it may appear like that. That is how it may be delivered in the seeking process. It may just appear in a dream. It may just happen as an insight while you're eating lunch. So that is guru. Life itself is guru. Life is the same where the seeking may fall away. And that is guru itself. it takes different forms.
Your voice is breaking. I'm not able to hear you. Good name.
Then are you able to hear me now?
No, I can hear you. I missed your last 1 minute, I guess. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So
You were
I
saying.
was talking about the relationship of guru and disciple. In duality, there needs to be a relationship between the seeker and a manifestation of life where the seeking may have ended, or at least where the seeking mechanism is seen as an arising. And that manifestation may very well be available within ourselves. Like you said, that there is awareness all the time, and yet there is this movement going on. So the guru and the disciple are both within the field of experience of Ranjan. So there's no need to look for a guru. The guru has appeared with it for us, within us, in each moment, exactly as it's needed. And that's where surrender comes in, that's where bhakti comes in. That if obscuration is delivered, that is Guru's grace. If obscuration has fallen away and clarity dawns upon itself, that's Guru's grace. Everything is that's where the concept everything is God's will comes from. It's all Guru's grace. The very movement of wanting to change the flow of life or the process, or to become better at observing or feeling love, is Guru's grace. And that very movement falling away or subsiding is Guru's grace. And that is the very love, I think, that you refer to.
Yeah. Yeah, we are more, because now I can relate why Ramana Maharshi was also saying that, okay, first bhakti, and he was insisting devotion as a preliminary stages. So where many things will fall away, like by chanting God's name, really. So yeah, that I realize now that the difficulties why Guru exactly says based on each person conditioning, he says some person to do this and some person directly give some mantra and just end, like Papaji was initiated with Om Namah Shivaya, and just because he was already very Parama Bhakta of Krishna, Shri Krishna, so from lifetimes. Yeah, that's why this both goes together in this process instead of, yeah, of course, this is a direct thing. Sometimes when many things, many feelings, emotions come, like, oh, where am I heading? What is going on? All these things. So at the time feels, okay, it is better to hang on to God's name.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hanging on to God's name is the very surrender to what is arising, and the very faculty of maturity and discernment that moves towards grounding in itself in whatever way feels natural.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yes.
my wife, she always forced me, why don't you chant Hanuman Chalisa or something? So I say, yes, I will do. And then again, okay, for me, it makes, because maybe it was so much ingrained by case teaching that he was always saying, he was comparing God's name to Coca-Cola mantra. That was a bit. I was feeling so humiliated because why he is saying, so whole India is, every corner is constructed with temples, and he was saying, comparing God's name to Coca-Cola, that mantra, basically he was saying mantra to that. And then, yeah, so, yeah, that's why maybe I was not inclined, but yeah, of course, I feel to visit some holy places like Tirunamalai or something, which I really feel that is, yeah, maybe that not solve or thing. It's like a devotion kind of a thing.
Absolutely. It is the very medicine to the sickness that we look to heal. So the very desire to visit strong places where deep sadhana or meditation has been done or is still being done by collective manifestation definitely has a power where the effort seems to fall away. And there's this, just like being in nature, where there hasn't been any human interference, there is this free flow of energy that is experienced. So that can definitely happen in places where deep, true meditation and intention has been practiced. And that somehow takes us with its flow. And whatever may seem challenging on our own is somehow a cakewalk in that moment at that place. And that's guru in the form of that place, and it's guru as in the form of the desire of wanting to visit that place. And it is guru in the form of us and life unfolding in a way where we can travel, we have the money, we have the time, and we have the body healthy enough that can visit and travel. So it's all Guru's grace. It's already the relationship of the guru disciple going on, where guru is delivering in ways that the disciple can never even fathom.
Because earlier visiting a temple for a devotee was kind of a miracle. And now we are blessed to, so we can think today and we can just travel to these places, holy places, and get darshan. Thanks a lot, Gurneet. I have taken a lot of time in this discussion.
It's a pleasure, Ranjan. It's always good to see you and always good to hear.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, everyone. As just a reminder, next Sunday there will be no satsang, and I will see you again the Sunday after that, April 27th, same time, same place. Stay well. May peace of mind prevail in daily living for all of us. I love you all. Thank you again.